Hello everyone, and welcome back to Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. In our last episode, the Queen Mother met with Winston Churchill numerous times, and he encouraged her, saying that she had more life to live and she was important in British public life. So then the Queen Mother got busy in service to the country, and she got a man named John Wheeler-Bennett to write her husband, the King's biography. He absorbed a lot of material, and the Queen was pleased with the book. Queen Mary passed away, and so did the Queen Mother's brother, Michael. She was becoming the senior member of the royal family. The Queen got a London residence, and she and Princess Margaret moved into Clarence House, which had to be redone a bit. She didn't really like the place, and she wanted to live at Marlborough House. So now we come to the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. The date of the coronation was fixed for June 2, 1953. Churchill had been against having it in 1952 because he felt that the country's economic crisis was so serious that not a single working day should be lost. The Queen overcame her reluctance to have the whole event televised, and this was the first time an entire nation could see it, not just the leaders. People were hurrying to buy televisions, and it gave the new television industry a boost. The closer spring came, the more excited everybody got. Houses were painted red, white, and blue. Street parties and other forms of celebration were planned. Some called it hysteria, but it was like a sense of vindication. It was the people's reward to themselves for the immense sacrifice and effort of the war. The Queen Mother was concerned about what she was going to wear. Before her death, Queen Mary had offered to lend her coronation robe, an offer which Queen Elizabeth had accepted with gratitude. It would save the difficult task of altering the robe made for her own coronation in 1937. Norman Hartnell made her dress, and in his memoirs wrote the difficulty of perfecting the hang tissue and jeweled feather embroideries. It had to be mounted on the underskirt of the ivory taffeta, laced with bands of horsehair, and further strengthened with countless strands of whalebone. With it, the Queen Mother wore a triple diamond necklace, large drop diamond earrings, and a diamond waterfall stomacher, together with the reband of the garter and the family orders of her husband and daughter. On the morning of June 2nd, she was wildly cheered by the crowd standing in the rain as she drove in a glass coach to Westminster Abbey. A journalist, Anne Edwards, described her progress through the Abbey as William Walton's orb and scepter thundered from the organ. On she came up the aisle with a bow here to Prince Bernard, a bow there to the row of ambassadors, and those tricky steps, with no looking down like the Duke of Gloucester, no half turn to check her train like the Duchess of Kent, no hesitation at the top like Princess Margaret, no nervous nods of her head like Princess Mary. She is the only woman I know who can slow up naturally when she sees a camera. The coronation brought her a mix of emotions. There was sadness and also pride that the king had managed to take an institution in crisis and restore it to its place at the center of the popular imagination and esteem. Her mother and father had revived the monarchy with their extraordinary diligence and dedication of her father and mother. For the service, Queen Elizabeth sat in the front row of the gallery with Prince Charles, who was 4.5. There was a photograph that showed her standing behind the prince, looking thoughtful as her daughter made the same vows as she and the king had made only 16 years before. At Buckingham Palace after the coronation, there was merriment that bordered on chaos. Cecil Beaton, the photographer, described the Queen Mother as dimpled and chuckling, with eyes as bright as any of her jewels and in rollicking spirits. Right after the coronation, there was the first family crisis of the reign, and it was played out in public. Princess Margaret had fallen in love with Peter Townsend, a married member of the royal household, and he was 16 years her senior. He was Wing Commander Townsend. He had a heroic record as a Royal Air Force pilot. He was good-looking and charming. He had married during the war and had 2 young sons. The marriage, though, was not a happy one. He joined the family household in 1944, and he became a family favorite. Queen Elizabeth described him to D.R.C. Osborne as a very nice, ultra-sensitive ex-flying man who was in the Battle of Britain and nearly flew himself into a nervous decline. He traveled with the family to South Africa in 1947. He helped soothe the tired and troubled king, and in 1948, when Princess Margaret was just 18, He accompanied her to Amsterdam to attend the installation of Princess Juliana as Queen of the Netherlands. There was a dance afterwards, and Princess Margaret danced with Townsend, and she was utterly radiant. In an internal palace report, Townsend reported that the dance was stuffy, overcrowded, and far from enjoyable. Princess Margaret was bright, beautiful, mercurial, and willful. On her 5th birthday, she captivated the playwright J.M. Barrie, who created Peter Pan. He was a guest at Glaum's. He said, "Is this really your very own?" because there was a present by her plate. And she replied, "It is yours and mine." It was a delightful response which Barrie put into his next play, The Boy David. She was the younger child, so her parents spoiled her. And within the family, the only one not captivated by her naughty winsomeness was Queen Mary. It's not surprising she was competitive with her sister Elizabeth. She realized that so much more was given to and required of her. Princess Margaret was sharp-witted, and she always regretted that she had not had a fuller education. She blamed her mother for the fact that she had not even had the tutorials in history that Princess Elizabeth was given. At home, she enjoyed being the joker and the entertainer. Queen Mother said she is funny and makes us laugh, and also enjoys people and seeing and doing things. I do hope that she will be useful. After Princess Elizabeth got married, Princess Margaret became the object of press obsession in her romantic life. The press in those days was mild in comparison of today, but its attention seemed constant and it was unwelcome. Princess Margaret visited Paris in November 1951, and afterward Duff Cooper, the British ambassador, wrote to the Queen and said how much he and his wife Diana had enjoyed entertaining her. By her charm, her wit, and her beauty, she made it a wonderful evening for everybody. He also congratulated the Queen upon the work of Princess Elizabeth. He said, "When I reflect upon the good fortune of our empire in the possession of 2 such wonderful princesses, my heart is filled with pride, confidence, and gratitude." The Queen was thrilled by such praise of her daughters. One's love for one's children is one of the real and enduring things of life, and your letter gave me a moment of great pleasure, and I thank you with all my heart. Princess Margaret was generous and volatile. She was a comedian at heart. She played the piano with ease and verve, and she had a rich, supple voice singing the latest hits imitating famous stars. She was coquettish, sophisticated, and what made her so attractive and lovable was that behind the dazzling facade, the apparent self-assurance, you could find, if you looked for it, a rare softness and sincerity. This was quoted by Rose, King, and Queens and Couriers. Princess Margaret had many admirers, but she fell in love with Townsend. Her family may not have known, but after the death of her father, she became closer and closer to Townsend. Princess Margaret had always been close to the king. Princess Margaret had many admirers, but she fell in love with Townsend. Her family may not have known, but after the death of her father, she became closer and closer to Townsend. Princess Margaret had always been close to the king. He always indulged her, and she had teased, delighted, and flirted with him. When the king died, she had no new role, like her elder sister, to occupy herself. She felt abandoned. Her letters at that time show the depth of her grief. She wrote to her uncle David Bells Lyon about her father. He was so tremendously the heart and center of the family, and together with Mummy made us a whole and complete family, united by the deepest love and respect. I think I told you how he always thought of us as one, as opposed to 4 different people. We were such a very happy and close family. And she told Diana Cooper, "We were so lucky to have had countless lovely memories of my darling papa." She resented that he worked so hard after the war. She felt he never had been allowed to rest between the horrors of war and the strains of the socialist experiment. At the time of the king's death, Townsend was in the midst of a divorce. His wife had committed adultery, and he was seen as the innocent party in the action, and was such a favorite of Queen Mother that he was given the task of organizing her new household and preparing Clarence House for her and Princess Margaret to live in. This appointment shows that the Queen Mother wasn't aware of what was going on between Peter Townsend and Princess Margaret. Some, though, noticed. In September 1952, Tommy Lascelles spoke about the matter to Townsend himself. Lascelles said that he wished to consult me on some routine matter. When that business was finished, I told him it was becoming commonly and widely said that he was seeing Princess Margaret. The private secretary reminded the young courtier that in their profession there was one cardinal and rule that in no circumstance ought any member of the royal family concerned was the sovereign's sister and the member of the household a married man. LaSalle said that Townsend left the room without responding. November 1952, Townsend got his divorce. Just before Christmas, he went to LaSalle's again and told him that he and the princess were deeply in love and that they wished to get married. LaSalle said to Townsend, "You must either be mad or bad," but LaSalle's recorded that he only replied that Townsend must realize that there were formidable obstacles to any such marriage. He asked who else in the family had been informed. Townsend said only the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. LaSalle said that the Queen Mother must be told, and Townsend agreed, but she wasn't told until February 1953. When the princess and Townsend finally did tell her, she listened. Townsend said with characteristic understanding, and without a sign that she felt angered or outraged, or that she accepted it, "The Queen Mother was never anything but considerate in her attitude to me. She never once hurt either of us throughout the whole difficult affair." I guess she was keeping her true feelings hidden because, according to the book, she was very upset. She discussed the matter with the Queen, and then she wrote to LaSalle's, "I would like to talk to you soon, please. I have nobody else I can talk to about such dreadful things." LaSalle's told Jacques Colville, "The Queen Mother wept when I talked to her. I have never seen her shed tears before. She said that she was quite shattered by the whole thing. She felt that if the king had been alive, it would never have happened." It was incorrect in one way because the princess had fallen in love with Townsend well before her father died. But if the king had lived, he might have understood its dangers and intervened earlier than the Queen Mother had done. One of the Queen Mother's characteristics within the family was that she never looked for trouble. She liked to ignore difficult situations. She had been brought up to believe that duty defined almost everything. Her shock was genuine. It had probably not occurred to her that her daughter could be in love with a married or divorced courtier. She did not feel herself equipped to deal with such crises, but she felt comforted by the fact that LaSalle's could understand the human side of such tragedies, for they are the young. So I will end the video here. In this episode, Princess Elizabeth became queen, and everyone was very happy about it. It was at this time that Princess Margaret began to fall in love with Peter Townsend. He worked at the palace, and he was a married man at the time. Peter thought that after he got a divorce, he would be able to marry Princess Margaret. He soon found out that it wasn't going to be an easy thing to do. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, if you could give it a thumbs up, it will help me and the channel in the mysterious YouTube algorithms. So as I mentioned before, I created a list of merchandise from Amazon that I thought you might be interested in. And if you click on the links, it'll take you to the Amazon page. If you purchase anything, I get a small commission that's of no extra cost to you. So I have a few new items listed here, so you might be interested in it. And more importantly, though, I wish everyone a good day. Tune in again soon for another episode of Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. Thank you.